Okay, ma'am, start.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful, it's again my privilege to welcome Mrs. Satya Bansal for the third day of the Faculty Development Program. I once again welcome you, ma'am. I would also like to welcome all the participants for this third day Faculty Development Program. It is with your encouragement and with your blessings that we are on the third day of the Faculty Development Program. I would also like to thank and welcome all the heads of the department of our college and all the staff member of our college for this Faculty Development Program, and welcome the technical supporters from the Department of Computer Science, Mrs. Boomer and Mrs. Mumtaz Begum also for this program. Thank you. Welcome once again all of you, and over to Mrs. Satya Bansal.
Okay, so here I am. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So how come I'm not getting here? I got chat also here. So assalamu alaikum everyone, and namaskar and vanakkam and good afternoon. So here we are on the third day of our webinar series, 21st Century Teaching Skills. Today's topic is storytelling techniques to promote creativity. And let's see how it goes. Outline will be something like this. What is a story? We'll look at it. And how do we understand a story? Why are stories effective in teaching and learning? And then we'll look at storytelling in the classroom and examples of using stories in the classroom while teaching. So inshallah, let's see. I want everyone to remember these 2 points throughout this session. Of course, it was useful in the previous 2 sessions too, but since it is a concluding session, let us remember this, that education is transferring knowledge and skills from the teacher to the students. And second point is that students learn what they see, not what teachers ask them to learn. This is especially true in case of younger students, because by the time students come in the college, they are already adults. But in school, they are still learning, and they learn what they see, not exactly what teachers ask them to learn. So please remember these 2 points. Point number 1 that we'll discuss is, what is a story? A story is an account or record of imaginary or real people and events told for education or entertainment. The story is actually a communication between the storyteller and the listener or readers. A story has its own narrative style. And some stories are actually written in poetry also. Like you can see, these epic Mahabharata and Ramayana, they are all written in poetry, but they are all stories. So how do we understand a story? Now, this is my story, 2 sentences. The child cried, the woman rushed to the shop. Okay, just 2 sentences. The child cried, the woman rushed to the shop. And now I'll ask you a couple of questions. Actually, I'll ask you 3 questions. Why did the child cry? I want you to put in the chat. Why did the child cry? Why did the child cry? I want some answers. Why did the child cry? I need answers. Why did the child cry? Sister Boma, anything you are getting from YouTube? Any response?
Hunger. Answer is hunger, ma'am.
Hunger. Okay, good. So let us see what else. So everybody says hunger, or is there something else?
Stomach pain.
Okay, very good.
Need something. These are the answers.
Okay, fantastic. Because that's how, we are trying to understand why did the child cry. So we all understand it differently. That's fine. Question number 2 is, what is the relationship between the child and the woman?
My answer is mother.
Okay. Anybody else's answer?
Not yet, ma'am.
Not yet. Please,
Oh,
please.
they say uncomfortable, to sleep, sickness.
Okay, that is answer to question number 1. Now we are on question number 2. What is the relationship between the child and the mother?
Mother. Another answer is mother.
So
many people said mother.
Mother. Okay, fantastic. Question number 3 is, what can you say about the character of the woman? She's kind or unkind?
Kind.
Kind, okay. Any more? I want 2-3 answers at least. Even if it is the same answer, I want 2 or 3 responses.
Kind.
Kind, okay. So, in a story of 2 sentences, see, all of us are able to answer 3 questions. That is the magic of stories. Now, let us try this one. Looking at the injured boy on the operation table, the doctor said, please ask another doctor to do this operation. I cannot. Okay, now my questions are, why was the boy injured? I need responses, please.
So far noted.
Yes, ma'am. Wait. I'm waiting for the answers.
Yeah, I'm also waiting.
Maybe accident, due to play, uncertain.
And there is one response. She's a doctor. Mother is a doctor. Okay.
Food problem.
What problem?
Food problem.
Food problem.
Okay, food problem. That do we operate?
No. Accident. Another answer is accident.
Accident. Any more? Okay. So what is the relationship between the boy and the doctor? One answer is the doctor is the mother. What else? What else? No response coming?
Parent and child.
Okay. So that is basically similar, mother. If not mother, it's
Mother,
the father.
father. Answers are mother, father, parent, like that.
Okay. So third question, what can you say about the character of the doctor, kind or unkind? Because the doctor refused to perform the operation. So is the doctor still kind or unkind?
Kind.
Mhm.
So one answer is kind.
If the doctor is kind, why did the doctor refuse to perform the operation? Isn't it doctor's duty to do?
My answer is maybe he is kind or unkind. Now, at present, he is in confused state.
Because
He is in dilemma.
your answer is also that mother is the doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So mother is confused. She is emotionally hurt. So she thinks she cannot perform the operation. Yeah, fantastic. All the answers are, there is no right answer. There is no wrong answer. Because this is what happens to stories. Why they are so effective. Our mind understands stories easily. Our mind is hardwired to understand stories. It fills up details which are not there. So all those details, we didn't know the relationship, we didn't know the reason, but our mind filled it up. That's why stories are so effective in teaching and learning. Second point is that the writer and the reader construct the story together, just as we did it right now. The story and the storyteller and the listener or reader. Together, we tried to construct a story that the child is hungry, or maybe he's hurt, or got stomach pain, and mother is rushing to the market to buy something, maybe medicine, maybe food, or the doctor is the mother, and mother is confused. How much we filled up there in those 3 sentences, two sentences only. Yeah, this is actually even 1 sentence, doctor's story. Third point is that the reader and listener engage with the storyteller, reader or listener, in understanding the story. So we construct the story together and we understand the story together. Stories are powerful medium of communication because the stories make us experience information as opposed to just consuming it. We experience that information. And the stories put a human touch to our lessons, whatever you are trying to teach. It puts a human touch. The stories captivate us. We don't want to stop listening. We want to know what happened. Why did the mother rush to the market? Why did the baby cry? The stories help us remember valuable lessons for a lifetime. Is there anyone who does not remember the story of Rabbit and the Tortoise? Who does not remember? Those who remember, no need to respond. Who does not remember the story of the rabbit and the tortoise? We all remember. And everybody, all of us heard this story, listened to this story when we were kids. You remember it for a lifetime. We all remember what was the moral in it. Slow and steady wins the race. Point number 7 is the stories inspire us to act on the lessons we learn. For example, stories can inspire us to giving up bad habits or in doing something good. And this doing something good, it is so important to build a harmonious society. Point number 8 is some stories entertain us. For example, funny stories or jokes. We can use them to break the monotony of a long lecture or give a break while explaining a complex idea. When there is so much tension in the class, you can just tell a funny story or a joke. It has to be very short, because if you tell a long story, you'll go too far away from your main lesson and you'll find it difficult to come back. So a short story, a joke to break the monotony, or especially when after lunch, the students are, and on a hot day, the students are sleepy. It's very important to have a few stories ready for them so that they don't sleep. Point number 9 is the stories make complex issues of life simple to understand. If you read the novel 1984, it is about the dictatorship that comes how dictatorship tries to infiltrate in every aspect of life. Similarly with animal farm. So these are very complex ideas, but when you read them, you understand them very easily. If you read a book on those topics, we find it boring. We may not complete the book. We may not even learn everything written there. But through the stories, we understand them and remember them for a very long time, often for life. And last point, we get emotionally involved in stories. We feel happy with characters. We cry with them. Their struggles become our struggles. And when they win, we rejoice. This kind of emotional involvement has three benefits. First, it makes us connect with the characters in the story. We empathize with the characters, identify with the characters. Second point is that it makes us think about our own faults, because once we identify with the characters, what the character is doing, if we see the same fault in ourselves, we become aware. And for example, if somebody is a liar, knows the person tells lies, but doesn't admit to anyone that he or she is a liar. But listening to a story about a liar, they may consider if telling the truth is a better option. So outwardly, nothing has happened. Nobody is saying from tomorrow I'm going to tell the truth, but it may bring a change. And third important point is that it is difficult to remember data or message for a long time, but when it is delivered through a story, we remember it our whole life. Any question so far? We concluded 2 points. What is a story? And why stories are effective in teaching and learning. Any questions so far?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. So storytelling in the classroom. Main point is to engage. If we cannot engage our audience, students, listeners, you cannot tell the whole story. So right in the beginning, we have to engage them from the beginning to the end. How we can do this? Now, we cannot deliver a message without engaging our audience on a personal level. In a class of 40 students or 60 students, the teacher or storyteller must tell a story in such a way that the storyteller engages with each one on a one-to-one basis. Everybody sitting there should think this story is being told to me alone, not to the group. Then nobody listens. Excuse me. Don't tell important information in the beginning. Keep your readers or listeners guessing so that they continue to listen to the full story. Leave enough room in your story for the listener to imagine so that they continue to listen to the end. Like the 2 stories we did, the doctor saying, I cannot operate, and the mother rushing out. Like that, leave some space there where listener can imagine whatever they want. Keep the story simple, yet relatable. Listeners should be able to relate to the story. Oh yeah, it's like my story. And keep it simple. In the classroom, we don't need big plot twists like we have in the thrillers. You know, somebody is dead, the police comes, one person is caught, then we realize he is not the killer, then another one is caught. We don't need such big plot twists or character arcs. A character is very bad, then he slowly becomes very good, or a character is very good and slowly becomes very bad. We don't need big arcs and big plot twists. We need simple stories which listeners can relate, in this case, our students. Or we need a story that resonates with the students. For example, connect students' problems with something you have experienced while growing up as a student. All growing up people have lots of problems, even in the colleges, although they are almost adults now. So choose topics with which students can relate. Point number 5 is engage listeners emotionally, because the stories are about emotions. When you tell students about the problem you faced at their age, they can relate to the story and will be willing to accept the solution or advice that you would be presenting to them through your story. If, as teachers, we give simple advice or instruction, nobody is bothered. They don't even remember what you told them. But when it is done through a story, they are willing to accept, they may be willing to accept the solution. Stories make listeners lose their intellectual guard. But while listening to factual arguments, they examine information critically. Examining information critically is extremely important, as we have seen yesterday. But when listening to stories, we don't start critically examining the story. We love the story, we love the character, what has happened, and we let our intellectual guard down. So that's very useful for especially, those teaching young children, to give them moral lessons advice. Point number 7 is, while telling stories, you may ask the students, the teacher may ask the students, who their favorite character is or are and why they like them. So we'll put, higher order thinking skills, comparing, evaluating also here. Plus, the listener will be able to think about the characters. We can ask them to compare hero and villain or any two characters. Again, evaluation, comparison. Or we can ask them what they would have done if they were one of the characters in the stories. And these kind of questions are very useful if you are teaching languages. Any language, English or Tamil or Kannada or whichever. But when we talk about engaging the audience, this is the advice. Now see, how do we begin? Engaging audience for a story during the lesson. What we can do is we can have some, if the class is noisy or something, shh, and the students know you want to say something important. And if you make it a habit every time you do it and you tell them a story, they'll know now a good story is coming. Or you can ask a question. For example, did you hear about it? It was in the news this morning, Or do you know what happened to da, 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 da? And everybody's interested. Yes, what happened? We are all hardwired to know what happened. You can make an interesting statement. For example, you won't believe what happened today as I was walking to the school. So everybody wants to know what happened. Or you can pause, stop speaking, keep silent to grab attention. When teachers become silent, the students realize there is something we have to do. We have to change. So you can grab their attention. You can change the tone of your voice. If you had been speaking in a soft, gentle, friendly voice, make the tone matter of fact or impersonal. Now it is really important for me to tell you this. But don't make your tone harsh. Just change it from soft, gentle to impersonal. Or if you are talking about data and your tone is very factual and impersonal, make it soft and gentle. Make that change. Let them realize there is a change in your tone. Next idea is make eye contact to let the students know you are monitoring what he or she is doing. So you catch their attention and then tell the story. But don't start your story before catching the attention. Everybody's either using hand gestures, asking question, or whatever, making eye contact. Let your body posture grab attention. Show you are attentive as a teacher and you mean to do your job well, which is teaching. Because if teachers are not attentive, why will students be attentive? So let us see what happens. This is a teacher, see? And this is from the news I have taken. This is the teacher. This is another teacher. This is another teacher. And they are all sleeping. and just see. But I am amazed. The students are so alert. Here the students are working. They are all alert. They are all alert. The teacher is sleeping. So we should not get into this kind of postures. Another idea for engaging audience for a story during the lesson is, whenever the students start looking bored or exhausted, tell a little story or a joke. A joke is, after all, a short story. So keep a collection of jokes for all occasions. Privately practice telling a joke before you tell it to your students. Be sensitive to students' culture while choosing a joke. And this, many of us must have felt. You know, some people, especially gentlemen, our brothers, they'll tell jokes to women, which actually shows women are stupid. You can't do that. You can't do that. Or culture, like you cannot tell a joke where you paint the whole culture, people from one culture, as stupid. So we have to be sensitive. Don't cut jokes to embarrass or humiliate anyone. Jokes should be for fun. And lastly, do not laugh at your own jokes. You will be embarrassed if nobody finds it funny. So make it, practice it. Don't laugh at your own jokes. Tell jokes so that students enjoy and your objective is achieved. Whatever you want to do during the lesson, you can do it. Any question?
It was based on the previous one.
Mhm.
One person has asked, can we tell stories based on our experience also?
Oh, that's a very good question. Just wait for another 10 minutes and you'll get the answer.
Okay, another one is, does a story have a twist?
Story must have a twist. Must have a twist. But let me remind you once again. Let me go back to that. We do not need big plot twists. It must have some small twist. You remember the story of Rabbit and the Tortoise. If the rabbit doesn't fall asleep, that is the twist. Suddenly the rabbit who was winning, he falls asleep. So plot must have, without little twist, no story is interesting. Plot twist. But we do not need big twists like we have in the thrillers. You know, in murder movies, somebody is murdered, the police comes, arrests one person, and everybody says, okay, he's the killer. After reading 10 pages, you realize he's not the killer. Now police looks and finds another killer. We don't need these big twists, but they must have some small twist. Without that, we call it conflict in the story. And without that conflict, you cannot tell the story. Even here, let me show you. There is the conflict. The doctor is supposed to do operation and the doctor refuses. That is the conflict. Why the doctor refuses. Or in this story, the child cries. If she is the mother, we expect mother to help the child. Why is she going to the shop? So there is always some conflict that will be there, but we do not want big plot twists. So
One more question. Will storytelling expand the attention span of the students? I am afraid students will get diverted.
Oh, this is why, you remember I told you, don't go too deep into the story. Don't tell a very long story. You cannot come back and resume your lesson. And actually, I tell you, if you do it regularly, the students will also get trained that, okay, after this story, we are coming back to learning. First few times will be awful. But you also need to monitor how much they can take. And don't tell them a 10-minute story. It should be just 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. That's it. Any more?
That's all I'm so far.
Okay. So let us look at examples of using the stories in the classroom. This you have seen. We talked about it in day 1 or day 2. And so, number 1, we need stories for creative interpretation of word right. Now, if this one we talked about, that this question, I have put it in bigger fonts here, write a play for primary school children using food relationships in diagram 102 and duration 1 to 10 minutes, okay? Can a teacher give this task to kindergarten children? Now, the answer can be yes and no. It can be no because kindergarten children cannot write. But then teacher can interpret this word right in a creative way, and the KG teacher may allot the roles of different living things in the diagram to her students. She makes them, okay, you are fox, you are bird or whatever, or you are snake and you are owl and you are rabbit and you are lion. And in the diagram, she gives them roles, encourages them to act out their roles as predators and prey. And it is a free exercise. Let them find their own ways how to show. And they'll also learn to be creative. Then the teacher can become the scribe. The scribe is the person who writes. So whatever they discuss about the story, the teacher can sit down and write. But I would suggest do not record, video record, because all attention will go on recording. When you are writing down, the students will get some time to think, because writing is not as fast as recording. And call, after you give them a few rehearsals, you can call parents and ask the students to perform. And such a simple lesson teaching about food web becomes so interesting. And again, it is packed with skills, including 21st century skills and much, much more. This again, we have talked in the very first day, the story of teacher A and B. So stories to design learning tasks. Now, I could have written down what are good practices that teachers can use while teaching. And I could have given a long list. Can do this, teachers cannot do this. Teachers can do this, they cannot do this. Instead, what I did was, I created a story of two teachers, teacher A and teacher B. So this is teacher A did this and teacher B did this. The advantage is that by the time I completed all these 10 points, listener had already understood whose teaching is better, whose pedagogy is better. And I didn't have to say it even before I asked the question. They know it. Yet I will ask the question, and I did. Has teacher B added value, like lots of skills or new information in the task? Yes or no? And you guys gave me an answer, a response. Why it is important asking a question like that? Because when you ask a question, the teacher asks a question, and the students give a response, they experience, they are discovering. They are participants in discovering the message. But if I tell you, look how good teacher B is, oh no, nobody wants to be told everything. So these are the little tricks which we can use. And very useful for designing learning tasks. Third one. Now, this actually is a story I created because explaining a complex idea or abstract idea becomes very easy if you can write a story. So, to teach critical thinking, here is a story. This is a girl. She has got a shirt in two colors, yellow and green. And she's in the market and she wants to buy a hijab like this one. And she's in the market and she's thinking, she's in the shop. Here is the shop. And all this from here to here is going on in her head. She's thinking. What does she think? This kurta has 2 colors. Which hijab would go better with it? Yellow or green? So she is making an observation, which is part of critical thinking. Then she thinks, oh, I like green, but green doesn't suit me. Yellow suits me better. Now, what is she doing? She's analyzing, evaluating. Again, part of critical thinking. Then she makes a decision. I think I'll buy yellow. She makes a decision. But the moment she makes a decision, she sees there are 2 shades of yellow. So she starts thinking, number 3 is too bright. Shouldn't I buy number 4? Now she's analyzing, evaluating. And then suddenly she remembers, but I have a hijab of almost this color and shade at home. Should I spend 600 rupees for this? Now she is doing reasoning, evaluation. She's going in circles. Critical thinking. Then she thinks maybe the shade of the hijab at home is little different. So she's analyzing, evaluating. And then she makes the final decision. I'll not buy it now. I think I'll go home and check. Maybe next time I come to the market, I'll buy. Why waste money? So the critical thinking saved this girl from wasting money. She didn't buy anything. And critical thinking is needed to make wise or informed choices. Now, if I take away this story, it's so difficult to teach all this. So if a teacher knows how to write a story, it is easy. You can turn whatever you want to teach, especially abstract ideas, complex ideas, you can make them simple and create a story. And here, this one word, I want you to focus your attention on imagine. This is a very powerful word to make participants experience the story. So imagine you are the girl in this. Imagine you are the father of this boy. It doesn't matter if you are talking to boys or girls. If you tell boys, imagine you are the mother, they'll laugh, they'll giggle, but that's okay because we are engaging them emotionally. So it's fine. But imagine is a very powerful word. It makes participants experience the story. I would ask any question about this.
There is no question. Questions are yet coming, but there is one more question where she is asking to suggest a way to tell stories when teaching science classes.
Oh, you also wait just few minutes and I'll give you that also. Thank you. See, do you remember this? We talked about 21st century skills and we talked what is this meta knowledge. Meta knowledge is we need to know about what we know and what we don't know, and we should also know what others know and don't know and what others need. 3 things. So you'll realize both the questions you have put, I have answers for them. So inshallah, just wait a few more minutes and you get your answers. Okay. So we are all ready. Now, teaching critical thinking. Now, what I have done is, it is impossible to get stories which include all the teaching point you want to put. So write your own stories. See, I'll read a story and you listen to me carefully. When my son was in class 2, when my son was in class 2, he was in a school where most children didn't speak English. And he was often left alone in the playground. So I took him out of that school and put him in an expensive British school where everybody spoke English. First day, when he came back from school, I was excited to know what he thought of his new school. And this was our conversation. Me, how is the new school? He, very good. Me, What did you learn? He, nothing. We'll learn tomorrow, I think. Me, why? Our class teacher, Miss Brown, didn't come today. Why? I don't know. Maybe she's sick. Maybe she's lazy. So you had no teacher in the class? He, Miss Campbell came to our class, but she didn't know what Miss Brown is teaching us. So she said we can do whatever we like. Then, what did you do? I sat quietly, but Pinky climbed up the desk and started jumping down. Why? She liked jumping, so she started jumping up and down the desk. She fell and got hurt and cried so loud that principal came and called the ambulance. And the doctor said Pinky broke her leg. Me, but during lunch you must have had fun in the playground. He, no, we weren't allowed to play. The principal said we wouldn't let anyone else get hurt. Me, so you stayed in the class but didn't learn anything today? And you had no play either? He, doesn't matter, Ma. It's a good school. Principal takes good care of students. Okay? Anyone wants me to explain anything about the story? I'll do it now before I ask my question. No? If you don't ask me a question, I'll ask you a question. How good is my son's new school? Is it a good school, very good school, or a bad school? Now I want responses. Now I want responses. Is it a good school, very good school, or a bad school?
Good school, they say.
What do they say, sister?
They say good school.
It's a good school, very good.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any difference of opinion?
And all the answers are good school.
Okay, fantastic. Now listen to me very carefully. And tell me if you change your mind. Why did I take out my son from the school? Because in the playground, he was alone. Why he was alone? Because he didn't, nobody else spoke English. Everybody is speaking Chinese. So he was left alone. And I put him in a school, which is a British school where everyone speaks English. And the first day he goes to the new school, what does he learn? Zero, because the teacher didn't come. The next teacher who came, supply teacher, she didn't know what the other teacher was doing. Is it a good school that one teacher doesn't know what the other teacher is doing? Somebody must be keeping a record so students don't suffer. And then the supply teacher says, the substitute teacher says, you can do whatever you like. So this girl, she climbs the desk and she starts jumping down because she likes that, jumping up and down. And she breaks her leg. So the principal does not let them play in the playground. And they learn nothing. So I changed the school so that he doesn't miss the fun of being with friends and playing during the lunch. But he learned nothing and he couldn't play. So now tell me, is it a good school? You're free to change your mind.
School is good, but children need physical activity and substitute should keep them engaged.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer, but may I say something? it is not congruent to my question. My question is very, very simple. If you say it's a good school, what kind of a good school where the substitute teacher doesn't know what to do and the principal doesn't let them play? If principal was so frightened something may happen, she could have asked few teachers to stay there, or she should have stayed herself. Make sure that children don't miss fun during lunchtime. You know, you have given me an answer what they should have done, but that's not my question. My question is very simple. Is it a good school, very good school, or a bad school? I call it a very bad school.
Now they say bad school.
Yeah. Thank you so much for agreeing with me. Thank you so much. And this is why it is so important to put all those twists and turns of our critical thinking. I had to create this story and write, which is not possible. If I look for a story, I'll not find. This is the benefit of being creative. Can I move forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Somebody had asked about the signs. So, if we know storytelling techniques, if we are happy to write, then we can write tailor-made texts for cross-curricular teaching. Now, this story, I'm putting it on the screen so everybody knows, says it's a story of a leaf. It's a autobiography. I'm a leaf, a green leaf. Let me tell you with all humility that if I'm not there, dear reader, your existence will come to an end. I cook food for the trees and plants, which unfortunately you human beings steal. The flat, broad part of me is called leaf blade or lamina. That's where I do most of my cooking. It has many small windows called stoma, plural is stomata, through which I take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen in the atmosphere. To send the food to different parts of the plant, I have a network of veins all over the blade. To send food to other parts of the plant, I am connected with the stem through a petiole. A petiole is like a pipe. The big pipes that you supply water to your home. Through it, I get water from the roots for cooking and also send food to the roots. Lamina is the main kitchen where I keep thousands of chloroplasts carefully arranged in neat rows. You can see this. Each chloroplast is packed with dark green pigment called chlorophyll. I have only taken the beginning of the story for you because the story continues. But this is the advantage. I have put the whole science into the story. All the words that you see, they are actually from science. These are science words. Now you can use a story like this for teaching cross-curricular subjects, or you can teach in English lessons, you can teach in science lessons. For example, if the science teacher is teaching photosynthesis, English teacher can take this story and teach so that the words are repeated and students remember them and they also learn English. So somebody had asked me a question about science. Is that answered? Have I answered your question? Have I answered your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Once you start being creative, actually there is no end to it. No end to it. Now you remember we saw it yesterday and we talked about it. Storytelling, this one, critical reading we talked about yesterday. And we said this is an Islamophobic cartoon because of the dress these men are wearing, their attire. So what is the alternative? All over the world, not only in India, people have become so racist now. They try to find something to other people, like you are not among us. Now, if we teach critical thinking, the student can understand what is wrong with it, but that will not make them non-racist. What can help them? The stories help us empathize with people we do not know. So we can tell them stories. Like if it is an Islamophobic cartoon, it'll be a good idea to tell them some stories about Muslims. So the students don't feel that just by putting on these clothes, you become bad. Clothes have nothing to do with somebody becoming good or bad. While writing the story, the writers or teachers imagine and experience what their characters must experience. So while reading or listening to the story, the students identify with the characters and experience what that character must be experiencing in the story. So this is how we communicate compassion. Empathy helps us understand what things other may find humiliating or insulting. So if we have lots of good stories about Muslims, people will not be Islamophobe. Like during coronavirus, there were so many deaths. And stories came that non-Muslims, there's a death in the family, even in my place. An old woman died, nobody, their own family abandoned, they didn't want to take for cremation. And these Muslims, they came. They took the dead body, they cremated according to Hindu rites. So, but media doesn't show us those good stories. They appear somewhere, in somebody's blog or something. Or when these migrant laborers, they were going home for more than a month on the streets, hungry with no food, tired, they don't have slippers. And that was the month of Ramadan. And these Muslims who are fasting, they were sitting with shoes, and anybody who needs can come and take. They were supplying food. Why we don't tell these stories? If we tell these stories, we live happily in this country together. Any question about this storytelling and empathy?
Yet to come back.
No?
No, so not so far.
Okay. So now we come to this question. Subraja, personal stories. Telling personal stories is a great way of uplifting the morale of a student. But I'll give you a friendly advice here. While telling personal stories, do not present yourself as a hero. Show your weakness. Because when you tell how you overcame that weakness, your students will benefit from your experience. These are very, very important stories. I'll give you two examples. First one, when I was doing MA in English literature, in my college, it was a small place in India called Riva. And we were just 3 girls in the college. And we had this athletics meet. So now, because we are only 3 girls, in all the sports, I got some certificate or the other, because either I'll be first or second or third. There are only 3 girls. But those certificates I came home and threw in the bin, because it doesn't feel like winning. Although, yeah, I have got this. Maybe if there were more girls, I wouldn't win a single one. So when I prepare my students for competitions, especially, before we start practicing or doing anything, I give them this slogan. Be happy if you win, be happier if you lose. So they said, why we should be happy if you win, they understand. They said, why should we be happier if we lose? I said, because you made somebody else happy. And it works. Slogans like this work like magic. Be happy if you win, be happier if you lose. So nobody feels bad. If they lose, they go, they congratulate the winner, and it's it. That's it, finished. No heartbreaks. Second one is like personal stories, I'm telling you. My young brother, who's an aeronautical engineer, even before he started going to school, he learned how to reduce friction. So when I teach friction, reducing friction to my science students, I always tell them this story. What my brother did was, he must have been 4 or 5 years old. You know this Johnson baby powder? It was there in the house. So he'll take this powder, he'll spread it on the floor, and he'll hide behind the curtain. So whosoever, these helpers in the house, come running, going from one place to another, and suddenly they'll slip and they'll fall down. And my brother will have a good laugh. So when I teach reducing friction, see, this is how we reduce friction, using lubricants like powder, oils, or grease. So when I tell them this personal story of my brother, they come back after 4 or 5 years, they'll come back and they'll say, Miss Bansal, you know, I still remember you taught me science. I still remember you taught us how to reduce friction. And your brother, you know, very smart. Now, because of my brother, some child here is benefiting. That is the power of personal stories. Any more question?
The one person has said, it was Supraja has said, I have Islamic friends who share my curd rice with me. I have told this indirectly to my students in the class.
Oh, you must, sister. That's very important. Because see, one thing, I talk honest. What happens is Muslims have no problem eating food from a Hindu home. And actually, we are very happy eating in a Hindu home because there is no meat, nothing. People like me who are vegetarian, I love it. So if you tell this to your students, they will learn that empathy. They learn that empathy. Like in my house, all my friends will come. They'll go straight into the kitchen and they'll ask my mom, where are pickles? Because they loved pickles. Or they want my mom to make this. But I cannot do the same thing going to a Hindu home. Why? Because I respect a kitchen is their personal private place. If by chance they think that people from other castes should not come, I don't take an offense. It's fine. You come in my kitchen, I'll not go in your kitchen. That's good. Let us all be friends. That is the attitude we must have. Respecting each other's religion. So, 21st century skills. We need to teach that also as teachers. A good storyteller or teacher can communicate effectively, is able to teach 21st century students to the best of his or her ability. Good storyteller teacher is able to teach many of the 21st century skills by practicing them. Can teach ethics and values like honesty, kindness, cooperation, compassion, forgiveness, sharing, respect for others, including respect for girls and women. Through stories. Ethics, morals, and values make us human. Otherwise, we are one among the mammals called Homo sapiens. Okay? Now my point is that, does anyone remember? Do you agree with me or not with my conclusions here? Do you agree with me or not? You have every right to disagree. Do you agree with me? All this is possible if a teacher can tell stories. Teacher can teach 21st century skills also. No response?
Before that, there is one question. I'll just read out the question.
Mm-hmm.
Can we teach social studies through skits or a play where students play a role from the text?
Can we teach social studies
Through skits.
to kids? Oh, that's a fantastic idea. That's a fantastic idea. See, here we are teaching them science. So why can't we teach social studies? Why not? That will be a very good idea. Like, let us talk what we were talking. The sister who suggested, she told her friends that Muslims eat from her home and they are all very happy. That kind, make one. And first day somebody had asked a question that if students from two different communities are there, how to manage. You can turn it into a play and teach them brotherhood, because we are all human beings. That's a very good idea. So does anyone remember what I asked you to remember at the very first thing? I said 2 points you must remember because you'll find it useful in the end. Now we are heading for the end. Does anyone remember the 2 points I suggested? Yeah. 2 points I asked you to remember. They'll be very useful. Any response?
So for the previous one, they said yes.
Okay, so what was it? There were 2 points. What were those points?
Good in technical skills and experience.
See, those 2 points were simply this. Education is transferring knowledge and skills from the teacher to the students. I asked you to remember it because we'll find it useful at the end. And the students learn what they see, and I told you specifically school children, because by the time they come to the college, they are already adults, not what teachers ask them to learn. Okay, so based on this, a teacher who hopes to bring about a change in all students often forgets that in this world, one can change only one person, and that is oneself. Because the students learn what they see, and we are trying to transfer knowledge and skills from teacher to students. So, a teacher who hopes to bring about a change in all students often forgets that in this world, one can change only one person, and that is oneself. That means the teacher can only change herself or himself. And this is a beautiful quote from Maulana Rumi. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I am changing myself. Now, how does it fit with our teaching? It does here. 21st century teaching skills require a new mindset. Are we ready to make that change in ourselves? Okay, that's it. That's it. Any question, suggestion?
The comment says it was an excellent program.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well presented. Your pronunciation is very good. Very excellent presentation. Useful session. And one question is there. What should be the length of a story?
What should be the?
Length of a story.
I couldn't catch that word, sister.
What should be the length of a story in storytelling?
Length of a story. That depends on how much time you have. And that is again a trick. That is again a skill, not a trick. Sorry. It's a skill. How you can make your story longer to fit the time, how you make it shorter to fit the time. And believe me, with practice, you all can. Everybody can. If you had asked me 20 years ago, I couldn't give you a webinar like this because I didn't have those skills myself. Now I have acquired, so I can talk to you and encourage you to acquire them. It is all a practice. Thank you so much. For anyone you know who wants, here is my email address. You are happy to communicate if you want to.
One more person, ma'am.
Mhm,
Being a storyteller myself,
mhm.
I'm ecstatic to see this. It is heartwarming to see so many teachers willing to utilize stories and storytelling in classrooms.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's really good when we find other people also using, and this is important. If we do not network, this particular webinar is also part of that, bringing teachers from different schools, different colleges together so we learn, we share information and experience and learn from each other. That is how we can take education to the next level. We really need to do it. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, you can give your mail ID. They're asking for the mail ID.
I have put here, sister, Aleph Academy VC. VC is actually virtual classroom. It's not vice chancellor. Aleph Academy VC at gmail.com.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much. Now we'll go for the vote of thanks. Anita, you can go for the vote of thanks.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon, one and all. No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. Respected Principal Dr. K. Rajab Fatima, Speaker Mrs. Atia Bansal, and all the participants. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. First and foremost, I thank the Almighty for making this 3 days international FDP a grand success. I extend my deep sense of gratitude to our President Haji Engineer S.K. Syed Ahmad, Secretary Haji Engineer S.K. Kuda Muhammad, Treasurer Haji O.A. Jafar Sadiq, and Principal Dr. K. Rajab Fatima for providing ceaseless encouragement and support. I'm grateful to them for giving us an opportunity to orchestrate this international faculty development program. It's a great pleasure to be grateful to Mrs. Atia Bansal, writer, speaker, and teacher trainer, director of Aleph Academy, for making this webinar a useful one. Thank you, ma'am, for inspiring us. Next, I thank all the participants for attending this webinar. And when I extend my thanks to the head of the departments and all the teaching and non-teaching staffs who have given support at the varied levels. Finally, I thank all the participants and all the management staffs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Take care.
Take care. I'll
Assalamu
get in. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam.
Ma'am, shall we end it?
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.